Thank you LEGO for sending this set for review. The LEGO Shuttle Carrier Aircraft is this year's dose of NASA-related products that space fans will surely be thrilled about, while giving aviation fans a proper plane build of one of the most iconic airliners ever, the Boeing 747. The way the building instructions are set up divides the build into two different parts, each matching one of the vehicles, and the first booklet goes into your usual facts about the history of the SCA, detailing some of its specs, and diving further into the actual LEGO model. Not only that, throughout the build you'll have little bits of information related to the specific parts of the set you're building at the time, which, for those who are into this sort of stuff, is really cool to see. There have been plenty of space shuttles done in LEGO bricks over the years, but with the now retired Discovery from 2021, and assuming the tiny one from the LEGO Ideas Steam set or the $10 Creator 3-in-1 set won't fulfill your space needs, the Enterprise here is your best bet. It is a relatively simple build, featuring most of the important details you'd expect to find in such a model, including many decorations which are all unfortunately stickers. The space shuttle name, the NASA logo, American flag and country name, same for the pair used above the wings, and these four holes on the main engines to represent some of the vernier thrusters space shuttles have. The nose section feels a bit rough on the edges, with all of the different kinds of slopes and wedges used, though honestly, at this scale, I don't see how it could be improved. The thrusters area, however, is a bit more refined, the rudder stuck at an angle with some cool bar and clip connections is always great to see, and the engines on the back, attached with ball joints, allow for some movement like the actual shuttle does, which is cool. The cargo bay area can be accessed by opening the payload doors, but there's not a whole lot to see in here except for some jumpers and off-placed plates which serve an actual purpose. For us to attach the space shuttle to the Shuttle Carrier Aircraft, there's a few steps we need to do first. Remove the landing gear and the engines in the back like so. Once you split all of these into pieces, everything can be stored inside the cargo bay area, which is actually cool as you really don't want to lose these bits depending on how you decide to display your model. The large hole in the back of the space shuttle is where you'll want to attach the tail cone build, something that in real life covered the shuttle's engines to improve aerodynamics while this was being flown around in the carrier. It is quite the object to put together, with some very interesting building techniques going on to achieve the shaping, and yet, like the nose section of the shuttle, I also feel this bit here to be kinda rough and really not matching the main build all that well. I will say though that when placed on top of the carrier, you kinda don't see the flaws that well, so to speak, as the size of it all helps disguise it somehow, and the way how seamlessly you connect these two together with the perfectly aligned mounting struts is where things start getting a lot more interesting with this model. When it comes to decorations, there's a bunch of them going on, and while there's still stickers here, the 366 close to the cockpit, and NASA and USA related ones on the vertical stabilizer, the cockpit windshield is actually printed, and so are a series of printed elements that start on the nose section with the dark blue areas, going all the way to the back in a ton of printed slopes with the airliner windows. I did, however, encounter an error print in one of these, where the windows were not printed all the way to the end. The carrier's specific features that aren't commonly featured on regular Boeing 747 aircrafts are the mounting struts previously shown, the vertical stabilizers that can be seen in detail, and the white, grey and dark blue NASA livery on the entire thing. But I do like how easy it feels to do minor tweaks to the model for it to look like a standard looking 747 if you're not into NASA, but aviation instead, which would look amazing next to the Concorde even if the models aren't appropriately scaled to one another. And while the shuttle was a fairly simple build to put together, the carrier on the other hand features some of the best building techniques I've seen all year. I still don't love this nose section either, too much texture and different surfaces going on, but for the remainder of it all, it looks amazing. This section, featuring a slight angle stuck in place like so, was incredible to see coming together, as were these angled sections on the fuselage, stuck in place via clips and cleaned up up by perfectly placed curved slopes to round off the shape. The vertical stabilizer was stuck in place in a similar fashion as the one from the shuttle, and the entire tail is sitting not perfectly flat, but at a slight angle that might not be the easiest to see on camera, like the real aircraft does, which then leads us to the main wings. They may look a bit rough, especially on these areas here right next to the main fuselage, but there's a reason for that, as there's the back angle of the wings, and once again, a slight upward angle to them you will be able to observe in real-life airplanes as well. And the way this all comes together can be better seen from below, where the wings, when completed, are attached with those cross axles and then clipped in place here for an incredibly satisfying building technique. But as you can kinda see, it doesn't stop here, as amidst the deployed landing gear, there's a bunch of Technic gears and axles going on, which, as you're probably asking yourself right now, means that this thing has a working retractable landing gear that all works in sync flawlessly by turning this gear. Not only the main landing gear, but the forward one as well, which is kind of insane and an incredibly cool feat of LEGO engineering if you ask me. Retracting the landing gear does allow for the entire thing to be displayed on the included stand, which I always have trouble aligning well, but thus highlight the model in a flying-like state I like a lot and features info plaque stickers with some stats from both vehicles. When it comes to pricing, this 2,400-piece LEGO model will retail for $230, which isn't an amazing deal, but still places this model below that sweet 10 cents a piece threshold. The Artemis at $260 at 3,600 pieces, though a lot of those were tiny elements by the hundreds, which does put things in perspective. Now, due to its size, please keep in mind that these will be hard to display around the house. While the length isn't really an issue, the wingspan of 21 inches or 54 centimeters will make it hard to place on most bookshelves you may have. Even I am not exactly sure where I'll place it, even though this is one of those models worth keeping around built. And the reason for that is that I personally value building experience pretty much above everything else when it comes to LEGO. I don't play much with my sets, and apart from a few specific models that I really like, most won't usually last very long built around the studio, since I need the space for upcoming releases. The Shuttle Carrier Aircraft, on the other hand, or more specifically the carrier part of this set, was by far the LEGO set I put together all year that gave me the most enjoyable building experience. And for that, it gets to keep intact for at least a year or so. While I'm not really into aviation much, NASA and space in general, on the other hand, are amongst my favorite niches within LEGO, so there's a lot I personally like about this set. It won't be the same for everybody, but then again, not every LEGO set is meant to fit everybody's tastes. If you like challenging LEGO builds, are into space, aviation, or any type of combination of those niches and have the space to display it, you'll be in for a treat with the LEGO Shuttle Carrier Aircraft that will be releasing in just a week, links for purchase in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all on the next one.